Notre série info, actualité sur le plan national et international, c'est donc une habitude, vous tenir informé sur votre réseau Pstars FM Radio Télévision. Nous parlons d'un congrès américain, côté que congressmen avec congresswomen réunis, il a pu faire une présentation de ça qui est arrivé en 2017, nous sommes été en shooting, pendant que M. Damsa a préparé, monsieur particulièrement, a préparé pour jouer un match de baseball que vous fait chaque année entre deux partis, républicains et démocrates, même si vous avez gommé dans le Parlement, mais vous les réunis en sportif pour jouer une rencontre baseball. Eh bien, on entendit certaines explications.
Was quote suicide by cop and close this file. If you read the report, you will see this is absolutely ridiculous. Most notably, our report finds that there were no hard facts to support the FBI's suicide by cop conclusion. Based on our review of 3,000 plus pages provided to the committee, the only reasonable and quite frankly the very obvious determination was that this was an act of domestic terrorism. Despite those clear and contrary facts indicating domestic terrorism, the FBI's investigative efforts and intelligence analysis strained to reinforce this predetermined suicide by cop narrative. For example, to support the FBI analysis that this shooter conducted an opportunistic act of suicide by cop, the FBI analysis refers to comments by a family member speculating at the possibility based on a lack of significant number of fatalities. He didn't think that enough people died for that to be the case. Aside from being incredibly offensive to the 4 victims shot by the attacker, this analysis fails to note that the shooting began, there were absolutely no uniformed police officers anywhere around visible to the shooter. Further, the FBI analysis claimed that the shooter moved toward the gunfire. There was absolutely no support for this claim in the case file. The FBI did not conduct critical interviews with victims and eyewitnesses. As a result, no witnesses were given an opportunity to contradict this theory. On the other hand, the media did interview the eyewitnesses, and they found that the shooter targeted victims from a concealed position in order to protect himself. Finally, our report finds that the FBI's press release was used to mislead and influence public opinion. For example, the FBI told the public that the photos the shooter had taken at the baseball field, quote, did not represent surveillance of intended targets. Yet, the internal official report that we reviewed, the case file states, quote, the FBI assesses photos may indicate possible probing and casing. In addition, the FBI used deceptive language to hide the fact that the shooter had a handwritten manifesto, which was found in his van, indicating his real motive. His real motive was assassinating Republican congressmen to, quote, win back the power of the people. Regardless of political party, we must all stand united against political violence of any kind and condemn this violent attack as what it really was, an act of domestic terrorism. While I am deeply disappointed by the conduct of the FBI under Acting Director McCabe in 2017, I am encouraged by the transparency shown by Director Patel. I will continue to work with Chairman Crawford to bring integrity, objectivity, and accountability back to the FBI and the rest of the intelligence community. Long story short, we have a long way to go to rebuild and reestablish the trust and the confidence of the American people in the FBI, the DOJ, and our intelligence community. This starts that process. Thank you, and with that, I will turn it over to Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan to say a few words.
Suicide by cop, the guy had a hit list in his pocket. He had 6 names, Republican members of Congress, on a piece of paper in his pocket. Comey, McCabe, Wray, they all knew that it was domestic terrorism, but that didn't fit their narrative. Because this was the FBI that spied on a presidential campaign. This was the FBI that said if you're a parent going to a school board meeting, you need to be investigated. This was the FBI that said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist. This is the FBI who raided President Trump's home. And this is the FBI who had 26 confidential human sources at the Capitol on January 6th. And it's the same FBI who can't tell us who planted the pipe bombs, who can't tell us who leaked the Dobbs opinion, and who can't tell us who put cocaine at the White House. So we shouldn't be surprised that they reached the wrong conclusion. They knew what the facts were, as Dr. Jackson just said and as the chairman just said. The good news is, as Ronnie indicated, we now have folks running this organization who are actually focused on doing what the FBI should be doing, on getting the truth to the American people, on dealing with bad guys. Kash Patel's doing a great job. Pam Bondi at the Justice Department, Todd Blanche and their team are doing a great job. And that's the good news. So I want to thank the chairman, both the chairman of the subcommittee, the chairman of the full committee, and all these guys behind me who work on the Intel committee for the good work they did over several years, as you know. And of course, we really want to thank, on that day, the Capitol Hill Police, who saved our colleague's life and did so much good work in a terrible situation. But for the FBI to give us this baloney and hang with that crazy story for this long, but for the work of these folks, we'd have never got the truth. But them telling us the wrong thing is consistent with all the other BS they did over the last several years. Thank goodness we got an FBI that's now focused on doing the work they're supposed to do. I yield back to the chairman.
We're listening here as we're getting...
Voilà, c'était donc déclaration d'un groupe parlementaire républicain qui contestait un rapport que JOJMN bon côté responsable FBI à partir de enquête que FBI a menée sous attentat qui était réalisé dans la cour Washington, c'était en 2017 pendant que parlementaires ça a été réunis pour être capable de disputer un match de baseball comme ils organisé chaque année dans l'histoire institution parlementaire ça parlementaires républicains ou démocrates ils mettaient en équipe pour capable organiser une activité sportive ou ta capable dire c'est peut-être seul côté yo rejoindre plus facile sans que pas gagner vieux parole cap dit sans que pas gagner ta capable dire opposition l'idée mais c'est ça n'darrelé tactique c'est activité physique et sportive côté que yo réuni pour organiser rencontre baseball si là cependant dans occasion ti gagné un mass shooting qui était organisé côté yo t'a essayé là ou si yo t'es ka éliminer comme parlementaire saoudi non mais si là que yo t'es arrêté il était gagné une liste de 6 parlementaires républicains seulement pour te éliminer dans occasion ou bien c'est Pstars FM radio télévision nous demandons pour rester ensemble avec nous va retourner un peu plus tard pour qu'un informé sur seul réseau évangélique qui a gagné sous net là sous web là www.pstarsradio